Good evening, and welcome to a candidates forum featuring candidates for the Sacramento City Council District 6 seat. I am Barbara Hopkins, a member of the League of Women Voters of Sacramento County and the moderator for today's forum. This forum is being co-sponsored by the League of Women Voters of Sacramento County and the Sacramento Metropolitan Cable Television Commission, and it is being taped for rebroadcast on Metro Cable Channel 14. The forum is being viewed live by an audience in the Sacramento County Board of Supervisors chambers and by a live cable television audience at home. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan, nonprofit organization of women and men established to promote political responsibility through informed, active participation in government. The League does not support, oppose, or evaluate political candidates or parties. Although our nonpartisanship policy does not permit endorsement of political candidates, we do, after careful study, take positions on political issues. The format for today's forum will be as follows. Each candidate will make a 1.5-minute opening statement, and next, the candidate will respond to questions from our panel. The questions were submitted by the panelists and reviewed by a League member. Each candidate will have 1 minute to respond to each question. And finally, the candidates will have 1 minute to respond in their closing statement. And in the interest of time and decorum, I ask that our audience please hold their applause until the end of the forum. And now I would like to introduce our candidates who are running for the Sacramento City Council District 5 seat. To my right is Mr. Patrick Kennedy.
That's wrong.
Sorry, wrong side. And to my right is Mr. Jay Chenier.
Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome and thank you for agreeing to participate in today's forum. Now I'd like to introduce our panel of questioners. First, Mr. Cosmo Garvin from the Sacramento News and Review, Mr. Foon Rhee from the Sacramento Bee Editorial Board, and Ms. Kathleen Haley of the Sacramento Press. Thank you very much for participating in this forum. We are now ready to begin. We'll begin with opening statements that were determined by a card draw before the forum. Our first opening statement will be made by Mr. Chenier.
Thank you. Should I go ahead?
Yes.
So thanks very much, and I want to thank the League of Women Voters, as always, for putting this on. I think this is a very important part of our democracy and important to the city of Sacramento. Almost 2 years ago, I made the decision to run for the city council, and I did that for a basic reason. I just think we needed to do better. We needed to do better for the citizens of Sacramento, for our young people, for all those in our neighborhoods. Since that time, and for the past 19 months or so, I've actually been out in the neighborhoods, all 19 of them, knocking on doors, talking to voters. I've knocked on over 20,000 doors in the neighborhoods as a whole and had over 7,000 personal conversations, one-on-one. I really believe that if I'm going to represent people, I should know who they are, where they live, and what they think. What I've found is that we have lots in common. People across the district believe that we need to do something about the job situation here in Sacramento. We need to employ more people. Without jobs, we don't have healthy families. Without healthy families, we don't have healthy neighborhoods. We need to support our young people. That's a common belief. We need to provide the supports and services they need so that they can be successful both in school and in life. And we need to support our neighborhoods. We need healthy neighborhoods. We need strong, safe, secure neighborhoods. But the biggest concern that I found is a lack of trust in local government. And that, I think, is something new. I think it's been that way for a long time with the federal and the state government, but locally, that's something that we have to change. I believe that a new city council working together in a functional way can bring openness, can bring accountability, and can bring transparency. And with that, we can begin to restore trust in our local governments. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Buck.
Thank you. I've fought for the neighborhoods of the 5th District for over 20 years. I didn't spend the last 2 years learning about our neighborhoods because I've come from the neighborhoods. As president of the Oak Park Neighborhood Improvement Association, I fought to close down illegal businesses, open new schools, and reclaim parks from drug dealers. As president of the Hollywood Park Neighborhood Association, I joined with neighbors to eradicate graffiti, worked with surrounding businesses to beautify Freeport Boulevard. Serving as a city planning commission for over 11 years, I developed guidelines to ensure that new development is consistent with the existing neighborhoods, and I'll fight to do the same thing in neighborhoods like Curtis Park. Now, as a Sacramento City School Board member representing most of the 5th District, I'm proud to be responsible for delivering greener, more sustainable buildings for our students and healthier foods for all of our kids, particularly those in the most challenging neighborhoods. I'd be honored to have your vote and your support. I'll always have an open door, and I'm going to open up, when I'm elected to office, I will open up a district office, because I feel that people of the 5th District shouldn't have to go to City Hall to meet with their council member. Their council member should be in the neighborhoods working with them. Thank you.
Thank you. And now we will begin with our candidates answering questions from our panelists. And Mr. Garvin, will you please ask your first question to Mr. Chenier?
Sure. Jay, do you support Measure B, the utility rollback measure that's on the city's ballot this November? Why or why not? If the measure does pass, what should the city do to adjust for that lost revenue?
Sure. So I haven't taken an official position on it, but I don't think that ballot box budgeting is the way to go, and for that reason alone, I would oppose it. I've found in walking the neighborhoods and with talking with voters, really to get their views on what's happening today, utility rates are a huge concern, and I would say it ranks in the top 2 or 3 comments that I get at the door with people. So I think we need to do something about it. I think the council needs to take a stand, do some work, look at some various options about how we're charging people. We can't continue to raise the rates, particularly on fixed income individuals. I've talked to people who are literally close to losing their houses because they can't afford the utility rates at this point. So what I would like to do is see the council put together an effort, do some public workshops, but put together an effort to see where we might need to roll back and what people can actually afford.
Thank you. Mr. Kennedy?
I am opposed to the measure. I think it would be devastating to our city, and as Mr. Chenier said, I too do not believe in ballot box budgeting. I think more important when we look at utilities, what we should be considering is what we've done in the past as a city and the mistakes that have been made. We, for many years, have diverted utilities funds into general fund costs or expenditures, which is illegal. We did it knowing it was illegal. Now, this comes down to accountability and transparency in our government, which currently has not existed. I think that we should, as an elected leader, it is at the very bare minimum, it's my responsibility to uphold the law, and I'll do that on the council. Regarding the utility rates themselves, and if it were to pass, it would be, as I said, devastating to the city, but we need to look at a better tiered utility rate system. Right now, it's simply not fair. We have large users of our water, for example, who make literally thousands of % of profit off of our water, which is a scarce resource, paying the same rates as small users. We need to look at a more equitable utility rate system.
Thank you. And Mr. Reed, will you please direct your question to Mr. Kennedy?
Sure. What can the city do to create and retain jobs, particularly in sort of the aging commercial corridors in the district? And I'd ask you to be as specific as possible.
Yeah, I've been talking a lot about the aging corridors because if you look at District 5, it's actually a tapestry of wonderful neighborhoods that's tied in by all these commercial corridors with Broadway and Freeport and Franklin and Stockton. And what we need to do is a couple of things. One is we need to be the council person who's in this seat needs to be a better cheerleader than we have been in the past of bringing businesses to the closed businesses that are currently not there. We need to go out and actually recruit these small businesses. Small businesses are the heart and soul of the 5th District's economy. We have a couple of large employers in UCD and Campbell's, but for the most part, it's small businesses, and we have to make sure that those businesses that are there know what's available to them currently. There's a number of services which are not being marketed adequately to small businesses. We also need to do a better job of marketing these different corridors and making them actual destinations spots and destination places regionally, like we've done in Stockton Boulevard with the South Stockton Boulevard and the Little Saigon. We can do the same thing in Franklin with Latino markets. We can do the same thing in Broadway with the international restaurant scene. That's what I'll do.
Thank you. Okay, Ms. Haley, would you please direct your first question? Oh, I'm sorry, did you get the answer?
No.
I'm sorry, I apologize.
Okay.
Mr. Chenier.
Happy to do it. I think we need to come at this from 2 angles. First of all, what I'd like to do is work with some of our larger employers, and I think we need an initiative in Sacramento that's non-government and putting together agricultural, health, looking at the new economy with a tint of green in it. And those are the jobs that we really need to be going after right now. We're not doing that. We should be working with our med centers, with UC Davis, with Sutter, to really put something together where we can start employing people and capitalizing on some things we're doing, which are very good right now. On the other side, we need to look from the ground up. I participated in some of the walks that some of the business associations have done. And I do think, and I agree with Patrick on this, the advertising and the marketing piece is incredibly important. If you look at Oak Park, for example, which is one of the corridors you were talking about, we have wonderful things going on, but there's still a perception of Oak Park that's not really based in reality. That's what we need to change, and we need to get people in there with businesses.
Thank you. And Ms. Haley, will you please direct your first question to Mr. Chenier?
If Mayor Kevin Johnson brings back his campaign to change the city government to allow the mayor to have more power, where do you stand on that issue?
So I've been very clear on this. I opposed the Strong Mayor Initiative the first time around. I sent out a letter to about 5,000 of my potential constituents. I think it was wrong on process and it was wrong on content at the time. I do think we need to update our charter. 1920, 1924 was a long time ago. I'd like to see a real and true engagement process around a strong mayor, or a stronger mayor, not a strong mayor. I'd like to see our neighborhood associations take a role in that process, and with that feedback, a real and honest and open discussion at the city council with the mayor about what things we need to change to get it done. We need to start with the results that we want on the city and say, what is it that we can't do now? What needs to change so that we can move the city forward? With some of these projects, particularly if you look at Westfield, if you look at the Arena project, if you look at 4th and J and the hole that we have in Sacramento there, how do we get those things done? And what do we actually need to make that happen?
Thank you. Mr. Kennedy.
Thank you. Yeah, I opposed the original strong mayor proposal for a number of reasons. One, it simply went too far. And secondly, I didn't think there was enough adequate public input into it. Gathering signatures does not substitute for real public discourse and an opportunity for the public to speak up on on such an important issue. I do think, however, we have as a city outgrown the pure city management system of government. And we can look at ways of changing the charter. We can look at ways of making our elected leaders more accountable by laying out more responsibilities. And I don't have any problem with that, starting at the top with the mayor. So I would work with the mayor to put together something that we can send out to the public and really engage a communication and engage a conversation in the community on the strong mayor proposal, and put something on the ballot. I also don't support putting anything on the ballot until the mayor's position itself is on the ballot, not midterm. So I would like to work with the mayor. I look forward to being on the council, working with the mayor to coming up with something that we can put on the ballot in 2012.
Thank you. And Mr. Garvin, will you please ask your question to Mr. Kennedy?
Sure. You guys have both been in elected office before, and I'd like to ask you each, what's the biggest mistake you've made while in public office, and what have you learned from it?
Biggest mistake I made in public office, as a school board member, I actually, and this will translate to being on the council directly. As a school board member, I pushed originally to hire from within a new superintendent. It turns out that I brought it before the board and it lost, and it turns out that I was wrong. We owed more to our community. We owed more to the city, to the school district, to go out and find the best and the brightest, the best we can, to do a national search to actually get the very best talent we could. We did that, and I think we did a good job. On the city council, I'm going to do the same thing. We have an interim city manager, but the next council will actually hire a full-time city manager. I think we owe it to the people of Sacramento to go out and get someone who has an international reputation, or very least a national reputation. And so, having learned from that mistake on the board, I will actually take that lesson to City Hall when we're out recruiting for a new city manager.
Thank you. Mr. Chenier?
Thank you. It's a tough thing. And when I was on the school board, we did 8 years of reform, and it was very difficult. And I think as we moved forward through elementary school reform, we didn't have a lot of resistance. When we hit high school reform, it was very, very difficult. And it was difficult because high schools are a different animal, difficult to change, and there were a lot of people dug in, intransigent about it. What we didn't do, I think, and what I've learned, and one reason I have been walking the district for the last 2 years, is we didn't do enough communication with our public, understanding what we were trying to do and what we were trying to, and why we were trying to do it. And ultimately, I think that caused a lot of the high school reform efforts to hit a brick wall. So with that, I think my feeling there is really understanding that these are community efforts, that the sustainability of any reform effort that you do is going to depend on the public and their understanding, acceptance, and support for what you're doing.
Thank you. Mr. Reed, will you please direct your first question to Mr. Chenier?
Sure. What do you believe is the biggest mistake the current city council has made? And I'll narrow it down to help you a little bit, maybe this year. And what would you have done differently?
I think these are small things, but very symbolic. And I was talking about the trust factor. When the city council went to move and there are more that we could talk about, but the symbolism, I think, is great. When the city council went to move the public comment to the end of the meeting, I think that was a big mistake. Part of being a city council member, part of being any elected official, is really being able to listen to the public and giving the public an opportunity at the right time in the meeting to speak. Taking the public comment section and moving it from, I believe, 6 o'clock, the beginning of the meeting, till later, particularly in light of the cuts in our bus system, so that people might not even have been able to stay and get home when you have students who have homework and need to get home. Those types of things just didn't fit right. It didn't feel right as far as the whole trust factor that I was talking about when I opened. We need to rebuild trust, and part of that is going to be listening to the public.
I have to agree with Jay on that point, and that's why I'm glad and I'm proud of the fact that on the school board, I had it moved, the public comment moved from the end of the meeting to the beginning of the meeting, because it is important that the public have adequate access. But more important than one individual decision that the council's made, I think there's a pervasive feeling in the community that what we have is a dysfunctional council. And what we have is an inability for people to compromise, for people to actually sit down around a table and work out deals that are good for the city. What we've got right now is we've got petty politics before public policy too often that pervades in city council. I think we need to get away from that. I think we need to work together to bring parties together who are on have opposing points of view, and work together to lead this city into a direction and to find commonality, lead the city in a direction that we all want to see it go in.
Thank you. And Ms. Haley, would you please direct your question to Mr. Kennedy? I'm sorry.
You'll get it.
Patrick Kennedy. Mr. Patrick Kennedy.
Okay. What is your strategy for how City Hall should work with the city's youth?
I think that there's a lot of talk about City Hall and City Council involved with our schools, and as a school board member, I see tremendous opportunities here for our youth programs. We need to do a better job of operating more joint programs with the school districts. We have 5 school districts in the city of Sacramento. We don't do a good enough job of having joint programs. One of the things we can do as well is look at funding opportunities. A grant proposal coming from the city of Sacramento and its school districts jointly has tremendous, tremendous power. We don't do enough of that. It's not the role of the city council to play in the classroom and to talk about curriculum, but we can do better when it comes to joint use of facilities. Our schools, there's no reason that our schools, which are in the heart of many of our communities, can't be community centers. We're working toward that as to develop a policy on the school board, but I think we need a champion on the school district, on the council, to work with the school district to better utilize our resources and deliver youth services.
Thank you. And Mr. Garvin, will you please ask your next question?
Chenier.
Again, I am sorry, Mr. J. Chenier, it's your
Thank
turn.
you. So I would agree on the joint use, and I was on the school board for 8 years and really pushed hard with the council, and we really didn't have great partners on the city council to work with us. But I think the school district, there are great examples of school districts and cities working together. There's a lot more we can do. After I got off the school board, I actually ran a commission on youth for Mayor Heather Fargo. And we developed a framework that the city adopted, which I think is very pertinent to what the city should be doing today. There are really 4 things that the city should be doing in addition to supporting our schools. One is finding safe places for kids to be when they're not in school. We know that the hours of 3 to 6 are when teenage pregnancy and drug use, all things that happen to kids that are not good. That's when that happens, and we need to make sure our schools are open, that our community centers are open. We need mentors. We should have 20,000 mentors in the city. We're an educated city. We need to make sure that kids are involved in the community, and we need to make sure that kids have jobs and internships. All of these things, particularly the adult-student relationships, those are the most critical factors in a young person's success. That's what we can do. It doesn't cost money, and that's where we should go.
Thank you. And now, Mr. Garvin, will you please direct your first question to Mr. Chenier?
Okay, thanks. I think you guys have both said that you oppose public financing of a new basketball arena for the Kings. But I want to ask you about some less obvious public participation, forms of public participation, like the creation of special tax increment financing districts or donations of public land. Do these count as public subsidies? Would you support using these kinds of tools to help get an arena or sports and entertainment facility built?
First on this one.
I think that's to Jay.
Yes. So I think we're going to have to be creative. I'd love to see an arena built downtown. I don't know what's going to happen now that Cal Expo has backed out. So that's the first thing that we're going to have to do. And I think in the people who are now negotiating, we have some very creative minds. So I want to see what they come up with. I wouldn't support anything like that. And I came out against even putting the land in as a donation. To me, that was worth somewhere between $30 and $100 million. I want to make sure the city gets what it needs out of all this. So I was opposed to even doing that. There are going to be hidden costs, and I think, again, it goes back to trust. We have to figure out what that looks like, and we're going to have to go to the voters on that if we want to do a special tax increment. If we start thinking about who pays for the infrastructure on this, what's short-term built specifically for it. And I think, the first thing here, Cosmo, is we need to stop thinking about it as an arena. If we do an entertainment complex downtown that benefits the whole city, then we're going to think differently about who pays for what going in.
Yeah, I strongly oppose a parcel tax. I strongly oppose a increase in the sales tax, which is regressive policy, to fund either a Kings Arena or an entertainment facility. That being said, I am a proponent of putting an entertainment facility like that in the downtown. I think we have seen study after study and case after case. Just watch the Giants game tonight. Didn't come out the way I'd hoped, but where putting an arena downtown has revitalized a downtown, and we need that desperately in Sacramento as an economic engine to help drive, to bring new tax base to Sacramento. Right now, our tax base is what? Our sales tax base. It's Arden Fair Mall and one auto dealer. We have to rethink our formula, and an important part of that is to revitalize downtown. I think an arena, I think a entertainment facility can do that. I would be supportive of looking at a partnership with the city's land, with the developer, but no tax dollars, no public subsidy in that way.
Thank you. Well, that concludes our question and answer portion, and we are now ready for closing statements. And Mr. Chenier, will you make your closing statement, please?
Sure. So first, again, thank you for doing this. My history, 18 years in business, 2 years running the food bank in Oak Park, 2 years as an assistant secretary of education, 8 years on the school board, time working for the legislature, gives me a pretty well-rounded view of the world. I've received campaign contributions from well over 460 people, one contribution above the personal limit. I'm not beholden to anyone, but come into this with a comprehensive view that I can look at every issue and really ask the question, is this, if I vote on something this way, if I take this action, is this the city that I want to have? Is this what's right for the population in Sacramento? Is this going to move me more forward to the place where my kids are going to want to raise their kids here in Sacramento? That's why I'm doing this. That's why I've been working so hard for the last 2 years to do this. I hope people contact me. My number is 752-3609. That's my cell phone. I answer all of it. I'd look forward to speaking with you. And again, thank you so much for tonight.
Thank you. Mr. Kennedy?
Thank you. You know, even in difficult times, we can do better as a city. We can dream bigger. We can open up a library in Oak Park. We can have safer streets. We can work closer with small businesses to create jobs, and I know this as a small business person, and that will build better neighborhoods. We can deliver city services in a way that's fair and equitable for every neighborhood, which we currently don't see. We know some neighborhoods are the haves and some are the have-nots. We can put an end to that with leadership at City Hall. We have to hold our city leaders accountable, and our government has to be transparent. We deserve nothing less. That's why I'm running for City Council, to represent the people of District 5 and all of the neighborhoods of District 5. I ask you to call me if you have any questions at 446-4434. Visit my website, www.patrick-kennedy.com. To the people of District 5, I'd be honored to have your vote. Thank you.
Thank you. And on behalf of the League of Women Voters and the Sacramento Metropolitan Cable Television Commission, I thank the candidates and our panelists for participating. I would also like to thank all the volunteers who have made this forum possible. This forum has been designed to impart information to you, the voter, in accordance with our belief that a democratic government depends upon the informed and active participation of its citizens. We hope that the insights you have gained from this forum will aid you in making your decision. And for more voter information about the rebroadcast times, please visit the League Smart Voter website at www.smartvoter.org or the League of Women Voters of Sacramento County website at www.lwvsacramento.org. The League of Women Voters is where hands-on work to safeguard democracy leads to civic improvement. And please vote on November 2nd and help make our democracy work.